wanted to talk a little bit today uh, about a reason why you shouldn't be afraid to write your viewpoints. As I'm recording this, we're days away from a presidential inauguration, days away from Martin Luther King Day. Uh, it's been a crazy decade for politics in America and globally, and there's a lot of sentiment that goes around of don't make this political, don't make that political. Oh, these people have gone way right wing, or these people have gone way left wing. And as independent creative types, as writers or artists of any type, if you're making songs or you're writing books or novels, you might have some reticence to say, well, I don't really feel like I have the confidence to jump in and assert a political ideology. Um, and I'm not advocating that anyone goes out and makes their books entirely a political sort of Animal Farm esque work, but all artwork is political, and you can't get away from it having an ideology. And it's not necessarily going to be the ideology that you put into it. My two favorite examples of this are um, the feminist reading of Jurassic Park, which knowing Michael Crichton, not that I personally know him, but knowing his ideologies, I don't believe that he intended to write that with a feminist political viewpoint. But, you know, men scientists screw everything up. Nature turns things around and causes backlash, obviously much more complex and nuanced, is a delightful and very political reading of a fantastic work of fiction. So whether he was trying to put that in or not, it was in there. When Tolkien wrote um, his Lord of the Rings trilogy, he was a linguist who lived in England, lived through the wars, and everyone assumed it was a not everyone, but it was widely assumed that it was a parable, an analogy, a sort of metaphor for the war, and that there was this looming invasion of evil to be written, you know, by a man with a typewriter in a blacked out London uh, building during the bombing from the Nazis isn't a huge stretch. He went on to say that wasn't what the book was about, and it just happened to be, that he lived through the war times and had some ideas during those times. So those ideas are there, and those ideas will be layered over the top of your artwork, over your writing, over your lyrics, over your stories, no matter what you intend to put in there. Now, again, I'm not saying you need to go be a firebrand and make your entire story flag waving for your side or the other, but part of the part of the fun of books and novels and stories and artwork and music is seeing the artist underneath it. Um, I think one of the things that Kurt Vonnegut was so exemplary in doing was showing who he truly was through his artwork. I think you can read his novels and just feel like he has poured his heart out to you and given you a great big hug at the end of the day. And it doesn't none of the words in the book say that. But what he's saying would only come from a place that only comes from a person who is the way that Kurt Vonnegut is. And it gives a very strong emotional reading to read through his works. I don't think we should shy away from that. I think we should embrace that. So, the long and short of it is if you have felt like maybe social media or your relatives during Thanksgiving uh, have shouted so many times to you, you have heard the parroted refrain, don't make everything political, why do you have to make it political? Um, you write your art, you write your stories, you make your music, Put in what you'd like to put in. Put in what you feel is right and true and what shows who you are. And that's okay. And everyone who interprets those stories and that art and that music will put their layers of their own political viewpoints on it and their own interpretations on it. You can't get away from it. You cannot make a piece of artwork that can't be interpreted in a political way. And you might be thinking, well, challenge accepted. What if I just paint landscape, paintings? You could very easily see a landscape and, think about Thoreau and Walden Pond and the the reason why we see this landscape with this idyllic pasturean setting and this river running through it is because all of us share a great desire to experience nature, and that conserving our environment is of critical importance. And the very beauty of this painting is a point in the argument that nature should be taken care of. You might see that and come up with 100 different interpretations. Whoever painted that painting of a landscape might have no interpretation in their mind. Maybe they just really like the way it looks. Maybe they really liked those colors and the autumn leaves were making the distant trees look beautiful to their eyes. I think there is no artwork that cannot and will not be interpreted politically. Jackson Pollock can drip colors of paint on a canvas and people can talk about how important it is for people to be able to express themselves. Even if you don't understand that expression. I think there's so many ways to understand art that altering or diminishing your art and your stories for fear of making it political does a disservice to you and does a disservice to your stories and does a disservice to your art. And I encourage you to, as is safe in your conditions, there are people who don't enjoy the ability to express themselves freely, but to the extent that it is safe for you to express yourself, that's one of the most beautiful things about writing stories and about making art. So if you have heard that so many times, don't make it political, don't worry about it. They'll make it political anyways. So if you have thoughts on this, please share them in the comments, because the more we drive these conversations forward, the better all of our writing is and the more we enjoy all of this. So thank you guys very much.